What's happening, everybody? Trey here, joined as always by my dad Sean, and today reactions to the classics. We're going to be taking in a little more modern classic with our album review of Sufjan Stevens' record Illinois, and this comes courtesy of a suggestion from our patron Osmond, and appreciate
Thank you, Osmond.
Osmond, because I've heard so many great things about Sufjan, and I was looking forward to diving into this record. A lot of interesting stuff in this 22-track album here. And before we get into the quick facts, if you like this video, y'all be sure to give us a big thumbs up and hit that big red subscribe button. We upload every single day, and you can check out our Facebook group, Discord, all that fun stuff down in the description below. And if you want to be like our guy Osmond, have us review a record for you, you can check out our Patreon link and we can hook you up there. But all that to say, Dad, well, before we get into the track-by-track review, let's get into the quick facts of Illinois.
Well, its fifth studio album released July 4th of 2005, number 339 on the Rolling Stones Top 500 albums of all time. We'll get into the critical acclaim of this in a little bit. And it was produced by Bones Howe, who cut his teeth engineering jazz music in the 60s, and that kind of becomes important just because of the arrangements of this. Obviously, the content goes around the state of Illinois. His previous album was Michigan, and when Michigan came out 2 years before this, he said he was going to do all 50 states. Later on, he said, that was a joke, man. I wasn't going to do all 50 states.
That'd be quite an undertaking, yeah.
It would, and he recorded this with low-fidelity equipment, so he kind of recorded it all by himself. Some of it in his apartment, recorded at the Buddy Project studio in Queens. As with his previous albums, he also recorded in various locations. Additional piano recorded in St. Paul's Church in Brooklyn, strings and vocals performed in collaborators' apartments, electronic organ in the New Jerusalem Recreational Room in Clarksboro, New Jersey, and vibraphone played at Carroll Music Studios in New York. He said, I spent a lot of time alone, a few months in isolation, working on my own and in the studio. I let things germinate and cultivate independently without thinking about an audience or a live show at all. And I tell you all this to tell you, like, it's very interesting, his process of going at this. And some, even though this was 2004 and 2005 when he recorded this, you know, you couldn't do this in 1965 or 70. So technology even then, now it's even way different, but you could just kind of go around it. How particularly was it, the certain instruments he wanted, he liked the acoustics of it here and in this church and in this rec room. And in, you know, it's crazy to go to these places just to record one instrument and then bring it all back together. But this album was very well critically acclaimed. I talked about the Rolling Stone Top 500 albums, but also Metacritic, which takes all the critics' reviews and puts it in one. This was the best reviewed album of 2005, and Rolling Stone magazine particularly praised his songwriting, saying how much better it had gotten since the previous album, Michigan.
Oh yeah, and to your point, that you can definitely feel his fingerprints all over this record since he did write it, he did produce it.
There's always a difference, man.
And soul, you can tell he really went in with the research on it. And there's on the album cover in particular, it has a bunch of odes to the state of Illinois. Yeah. You have the Sears Tower, a little bit of the Black Hawk. And you also have a Superman going in there well, which got
a little bit of a problem with that.
Yeah, DC Comics came and said, hey man, you can't be doing that. So then in the subsequent releases, they took Superman off.
They did.
Hey, if you got an original, I'm sure it's worth a little.
Yeah, I was gonna say
a little bit more. And
they started putting stickers over them until they sold all of them. DC was nice. They didn't make the record label take them out. They put stickers over it before.
It's kind of unique because a lot of these song titles are obscenely long. And
they are obscenely long, brother.
Even the album title itself on the cover reads, Sufjan Stevens invites you to come on, feel the Illinois, you know, because of course that is a play on word for the Quiet Riot and a Slade song, and also a lot of people mispronounce Illinois as Illinois. So, and some people were confused, like, well, what is this record really called? And I mean, it is just called Illinois.
It is. Well, we're going to start off this 22-track epic with Concerning the UFO Sighting near Highland, Illinois. Opens with a piano and flute. Background singers Katrina Kearns, Shara Worden enter the song at just the right moments, wrapping their voices around Stevens' croon. The St. Clair Triangle, or the Southern Illinois incident, was a UFO sighting which occurred on January 5th, 2000 over the town of Highland, Illinois, beginning shortly after 5 a.m. 5 police officers and multiple people report seeing this saucer with 3 lights going on. So that's how we started the album.
Well, man, I like me some UFO talk.
Yes, dreamy atmosphere in this. Real good opener.
It starts with a creaking piano in that first second, which our last song ends with that creaking piano.
Yes,
so
bookends.
I always like when artists do that. And here you're just introduced to Stevens's type of vibe and sound. You have a very soft, almost hushed delivery from him, and just beautiful melodies is something that's going to come up.
Yeah, theme, big time.
A lot in this record. I thought it did a good job getting you ready for the rest of the album. Then we go to the Black Hawk War, which is the second song, just an instrumental here, and I particularly like the last minute of the songs where trumpets came in. He utilizes those a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot heavier. Yeah, a lot heavier thing
to get some power in, and piano going in strong. Have some hypnotic harmonizing with the ahs in there, and then that goes to one of the bigger tracks on this record. Come on, Feel the Illinois.
Part 1.
Part 1.
Yeah, the World's Columbian Exposition. And then part 2 will be Carl Sandburg Visits Me in a Dream. It makes references, obviously, to the World's Columbian Exposition, which took place in Chicago in 1893. And Carl Sandburg, one of Illinois' favorite sons. This song was just okay for me in the context of the album itself.
Okay, see, this is actually one of my favorites.
Okay.
I like the way he framed this with what he had to say, especially the first part about the World Fair. Obviously the huge fair that happened in Illinois back in the day, and he frames this through kind of our inventions, if they're really doing anything to progress society now.
Yeah.
How we're all just so overtaken with consumerism, and then that second part with Carl Sandburg. You're going to learn some stuff if you're listening to this. I didn't know who Carl was.
I didn't either. I did some research while I was researching the album about Carl. Yeah, this album in particular, you research the song, and then that makes you go do further research about other stuff. So yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, you go on the rabbit trail, and Carl comes, and he's talking to Sufjan himself, and Sufjan's saying, well, what I have to say is maybe a bit darker, this and that, but hey, it's at least real, it's at least authentic to me, and I'm going to go through with it. And I particularly liked his line, even in my best condition, counting on the superstition, I am riding all alone, I am running all alone, which I think kind of reflects some of Stevens' mindset through some of this record. And then that takes us to one of the most powerful tunes on this entire album.
Yeah, John Wayne Gacy Jr. And you've got to, when you're doing an album about a state, you really, if you're going to do it right, cover the good stuff and the bad stuff, or the infamous stuff.
That's
so
right.
To have a song about John Wayne Gacy Jr., who was a serial killer in the 1970s, is an interesting choice. It's a fantastic song. And a lot of the lyrics, the lyrics are about John Wayne Gacy. He says, when the swing set hit his head, refers to an event in Gacy's childhood when a swing set hit his head and caused a blood clot in his brain, which may explain some things. He dressed up like a clown for them with his face paint white and red, alludes to the nickname given to Gacy, the Killer Clown. And the song ends with the narrator turning inward with the lyrics, and in my best behavior, I'm really just like him. Look beneath the floorboards for the secrets I have hid. He said in an interview in 2009, Stevens did, that we all are capable of doing what Gacy Jr. did. I hope I'm not, but pretty interesting thing. Very stripped back like it should be, and very haunting.
Oh, yeah.
Like it should be with the subject matter.
Yeah, he tackles a bunch of these topics that are very tough to maneuver, but this is one of them, of course. But I thought he did an excellent job.
Oh, I did too.
And it does really make you think, because he frames up Gacy, was abused himself as a child.
Exactly.
But then he
had the brain injury,
Yeah, he grows up, he's a clown, and, bringing joy to children. You kind of look at him and think, oh, that Gacy guy, he's a normal dude. Well, not knowing what's really beneath the floorboards of his own life, both physically and mentally, and that, we're all just kind of one bad day away from possibly going down a bad path.
And most people just show you their best front. You don't really know who they really are deep down. So I thought this showcased his songwriting at a high level.
Definitely. And then we're going to go to Jacksonville, not Jacksonville, Florida, but
Jacksonville, Illinois, which I didn't even know existed.
And this has odes to the black preacher A.W. Jackson, also notes part of the Underground Railroad. So I think this was good, coming off a very hard blemish for Illinois.
Right.
Coming to something that they could be proud of. He had a bit more of a folky type of melody here, so I enjoyed it.
He also talks about the town being named after Andrew Jackson, to the schools for the deaf and blind. It was more acoustic driven, not bad for me. Then we go to a 47-second instrumental, a short reprise from Mary Todd, who went insane, but for very good reasons. And supposedly the subject of this, and from the name you can kind of tell, but when Abraham Lincoln died, he left his estate obviously to his wife, and his son Robert actually had his mom committed to an insane asylum so he could take the money. She ended up getting released from it, but he got the money, so that's kind of what that is about, Trey.
And then we go to Decatur, yet again, another town that's in Illinois here. And
or a round of applause for your stepmother. That's the other part of the song.
That's right, and that's where it comes in, because he notes at the start, the character in the song really did everything they could to make their life miserable for their stepmother. They didn't like her.
As so many people do.
And but then at the end, he kind of comes around thinking like, well, I have some good memories of my stepmother, kind of coming around in that sense. And here at the end, you had the choir coming in, a little bit more spoken word at the end here. Not a standout track for me, but it was solid for what it was.
Some references to Decatur included in the song were alligator sightings in the area, the equipment manufacturer Caterpillar, and a flood that exhumed a graveyard of soldiers from the Civil War. That probably wasn't a lot of fun. Includes the line, "It's the great I am," taken from the response God gave Moses when asked for his name in the book of Exodus. Pretty catchy, I think, Trey. Then we go to another instrumental that's 6 seconds long, if you even want to call it a track. One last woohoo for the Pullman. Then we go to the most famous song on here, the centerpiece of the album, Go Chicago, Go Yeah.
Yeah, and this track has a bit of a autobiographical spin to it. Stevens noted when he was younger, he would just go on these big long road trips. He once got pulled over as well.
Gives you a bad memory of a state sometimes. It sticks out. Not the state's fault, but...
And just kind of surviving, being young, being stupid, but at the same time making great memories. And I think that's reflected in the song here. Stevens does some good wordplay of everything can know, go, grow. I think that he did a good job with that. And again, the choir, I think, brought a nice touch here where if they weren't there, they'd be missed. And again, the final message kind of being like, no matter the mistakes we make, wherever we're at, we can kind of be recreated and be made anew. So it also reminded me a little bit of the Come On Feel the Illinois track 3.
Yeah, and I think the overall message of the song is fantastic, because you're not done until you're done, right? Until you leave this earth, you can still make changes and grow no matter what you've done. I think this one was my favorite. I'll give that away already. But I think the arrangement of it, it's the most grand song.
Yeah.
Just with everything going on, the different instruments, which is a lot of instruments on a lot of these songs, but the choir, just everything put together is just expertly arranged. That takes us to CASIMIR Pulaski Day. Interweaves a personal story with the state holiday CASIMIR Pulaski Day. Describes the death of a romantic partner due to bone cancer, and the narrator questions God in the process. Lyrics include the narrator questioning God's judgment in Job 121. Very powerful lyric. Pretty good. Stripped back. And if you're from Illinois and I'm saying the name of that wrong, I'm already going to tell you, sorry about that.
No, yeah, this was definitely one of my favorites. Yeah. Probably, the tune that hit me the most in the middle, because here Stevens is detailing out the illness, the cancer of one of his friends. You have it wastes no time to get heavy. We have lines such as, all glory that the Lord has made, and the complications you could do without. He also notes, Tuesday night at Bible study, we lift our hands and pray over your body, but nothing ever happens. And he is able to interweave his faith. That's something we didn't mention that we should have at the start.
Yeah, but, that's true.
Stevens is a Christian, and
it's all over this album.
Yeah, and he's able to interweave that, and his wrestling with his faith, with his experience, not only with other people, but as we go later on to being gay as well. So it's very unique perspective that I think he's able to put, and at the end of the day, he kind of comes to that conclusion that even though this is bad, he still has his faith in God.
Yeah, and I thought that was the fantastic part, because we're both strong Christians, and at the end of the day, people who are not of the faith a lot of times say, why is all this bad stuff happening? Well, because that's in God's plan and we can't see it. But it doesn't mean if it's happening to you, you're not going, dude, what is the deal? We prayed over you, we've done all this stuff, and this person still passes. I thought that was just a fantastic way to present that. That's going to take us to another instrumental. This one's a little longer, 1:40. To the workers of the Rock River Valley region, I have an idea concerning your predicament. The title, in reference to this region, references the harsh working conditions, corrupt city politics, and incredibly high crime rates that the region is known for, specifically in the city of Rockford, Illinois. More hard driving, some drums in here. Thought it was okay. I'm sure if you live in Rockford, Illinois, you weren't really excited about this one.
No, yeah, more dominated by keys, which made it stand out from other instrumentals. And that takes us to The Man of Metropolis Steals Our Hearts. As you would note, it has references to Superman, who, of course, his hometown is Metropolis, which was partially modeled after Chicago.
Which I did not know.
And here, going back to the Christian themes, I think Stevens here props up Superman as a almost Christ-like figure,
yes.
An ideal of a man and somebody to look to strive to be at times, and just kind of take inspiration from. I mean, that's one of the big things of Christ and Superman, of course, in the comic books. What is he? He's the guy people look up to be like, oh man, maybe we can take some of his ideals and be a little bit better ourselves, which I think this song reflects quite well.
Yeah, and instrumentally, it's very hard driving.
See, this is the one of the only times where the electric
guitar. I even made a note of that. Yeah, it's very hard driving, which it needs to be for the subject matter. A real standout on here. That's going to take us to Prairie Fire That Wonders About, in parentheses, Peoria. Most striking is the absence of lead vocals. Instead, we hear a double choir repeating the lines to create an echo effect. They merge as the subject becomes more serious. The whimsical opening line, Peoria, Destroya, foreshadows the second part of the song where the chorus sings, into the crossfire faithfully run. Middle America, one on one. It almost sounds like, to me, a Christmas arrangement at times. I don't know if you got that out. I'm like, what does this remind me of? And so I had to repeat it right away the first time. I'm like, it kind of has a Christmas arrangement. Not the lyrics, but I could...
Yeah, just the vibe.
Yeah, which kind of tells you the diversity of this album.
Yeah, very, very diverse record. I think he was throwing a little too much here for me personally. This was one of my least favorite tracks, actually. Apologies to those that love this tune.
Yeah.
Wasn't a huge fan of it. Then that leads us to a 19-second instrumental that is just driven by some key chords, essentially. Then we go to the Predatory Wasp of the Palisades is out to get us. Here he's talking about, Stevens is talking about one of his experiences going to a summer camp back, when he was a teenager, and essentially falling in love with another boy here, and just the kind of connection that they had with each other. This is the most explicit Stevens is with his, his sexual orientation.
Yeah, because when I study that, I'm like, has he really come out? And it's kind of like, I couldn't find where he officially has, but he's kind of alluded to it. You might have found that. I wanted to make sure.
I think the lyrics on this one are pretty explicit.
They are. I agree.
And it is interesting, though, because then he notes, like, all this time has passed. He still has memories of this guy, and, they just went their separate ways, never saw each other again. But it is an interesting way that he did that, and kind of noted the tussle, with his faith in relation to that, being a Christian, and then, with his sexual orientation. I thought that was a unique perspective that he could give insight to.
And it had a much more chilled atmosphere to the song, which probably is good with the intense lyrical nature. That way you can focus less on the awesome instrumentation that's on this album and more on what he's saying. Takes us right into the 16th song. They are night zombies. They are neighbors. They have come back from the dead. Makes references to ghost towns of Illinois. Has additional vocals from the Illinois Maker Choir. They start singing in his cheerleader style, and then Stevens and two other guys come in before Stevens has his own part and then repeats the style. It's so for me, Trey. I think it's too repetitive for me.
Interesting. Yeah, this wasn't a favorite of mine. I did think it was interesting in the fact he did his best horror,
Yeah, it was more diverse. I'll give him credit. It's different than a lot of the other stuff.
With kind of the choir doing a little cheerleading type of deal here. He notes that the zombies are not coming really to eat him, but they're afraid of being forgotten now that they're dead, just like Stevens is. And then that takes us into two just short and sweet instrumentals that kind of allude to the town of Bushnell and also Abraham Lincoln before we get to the next track.
That brings us to the Sears Tower, SEER'S, as you see below. References the book of Revelation, the second coming of Christ. The piano kind of starts it out. It has a more hymnal feel to me. Pretty good.
Yeah, and this really, again, leads into some biblical allusions.
Sure.
You got the line, with his sword, with his robe, he comes dividing man from brothers, of course, an allusion to Jesus coming back. And also, he has the lines, oh, my mother, she betrayed us, but my father loved us and bathed us. I think that kind of reflects Mother Earth there.
Right.
The humanity in man let him down, but Father, as in God, is still there holding Sufjan here in this track. A very solid tune, up there at the top of the record, I think, because it does have kind of those oohs harmonizing to give that apocalyptic feel yet again. So I think that with his idea of wanting to kind of go that direction, he was able to put an arrangement down that reflected that. Then we go to another two-parter song here.
We do. The Tallest Man, the Broadest Shoulders. Part 1, The Great Frontier. Part 2, Come to Me Only with Playthings Now. Over 7 minutes. Titles because Robert Wadlow, the tallest man ever in human history, was born and raised in Alton, Illinois. The title of part 2 of the song is a reference to the first line of Carl Sandburg's poem, Murmurings in a Field Hospital. And this is what you were talking about too, Trey, with the symmetry of this album. By having 2 songs referencing Sandburg in the title, the third track and the third to the last, Stevens gives the album a sense of symmetry. This goes for 1:15 before the lyrics even start.
Yeah, exactly. Here, I think you have the best horns on the record. I really love the horns throughout this whole album, but on this song in particular, man, very, very awesome. The choir here, very intricate vocal arrangements, and I think Stevens did a fantastic job having them back him up here. And really, I think the crux of this song is that Illinois, kind of here in America, it kind of up in that Midwestern area, he notes that you, no matter what you're doing, you can be a carpenter, you can be this, you can be that, you can still be great in your own way. Hey, even Illinois can produce the tallest man ever, on record with Robert Wadlow, who was almost 9 feet tall whenever he died. So I thought that was, again, awesome title too, to kind of tie that in there. And the last lines on the whole record, because our last 2 tracks are just instrumentals, is "Oh Great Illinois, it can only start with you." And I think that just sums up kind of the whole album in as a whole.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't have much more to add to it. It's a good song. And then our last 2, as you already mentioned, were instrumentals. We have Riffs and Variation on a Single Note for Jelly Roll, Earl Hines, Louis Armstrong, Baby Dodds, and the King of Swing, to name a few. Kind of tells you what it's about. Good horns on this, 46 seconds. And then the last one is a longer instrumental, Out of Egypt into the Great Laugh of Mankind, and I Shake the Dirt from My Sandals as I Run. Based on several biblical references, this also could refer to the area of southern Illinois known as Little Egypt, and possibly to its sordid economic and racial past. An interesting way to end a 22-song album, but I'm sure he had his reasons.
No, I thought, though, it made the most use of its time, since it was the longest instrumental, kind of built up with those wind instruments, made it a bit emotive and unique.
Yeah, and I think with these instrumentals like this, we were talking about it before we started filming this, unless I had research that I could go look at, like when you bought this album, you don't know what these are about.
Yeah.
It's just an interesting way to finish off once you can read and like, oh yeah, this is what I meant from this song. But if you just bought this record in 2005 and played it, you'd just be like, okay.
No, that's a good point, and that's going to now transition us to our favorite tracks. For me, I got to go with Come On, Bill, the Illinois. I will go with the CASIMIR, PULASKI Day, John Wayne Gacy Jr., and the Predatory Wasp.
Wow, okay. I'm going to go with Go Chicago, Go Yeah, and the Man of Metropolis Steals Our Hearts. There really wasn't any song on here I didn't like. I mean, there's an atmosphere to this album. There's differentiation, of course, but there's an overall atmosphere to the album where it's just a pleasant album and a pleasant listen. It's 22 tracks. It's not really, because a few of these are very short instrumentals, but it's a long album.
It's 75 minutes or so.
Yeah, and the only thing I would say about that is it could have been even 15 minutes shorter would have been a nicer ride for me, but I do appreciate it for what it is. I'm glad that Osmond brought it to us, because I didn't really know any of Sufjan's stuff. We played a couple on live streams. That's it. So it was enjoyable. I'm going to give it a 7.75. That could go up over time. It definitely is an atmosphere album. I know I already said that, but like you can throw this album on when you're in a certain mood and just play it front to back. And you don't have to, even though the lyrics, there's a lot to them, you don't have to sit there and like intently and deliberately listen. You can put this on while you're doing work or doing something else, and it's a very good album for that.
Good, great summation there. I think that I'm going to go about an 8.0.
I can see that
on
too.
This one, man. I thought it was a pretty great offering here by Sufjan, a good introduction to his work. I was very impressed with the lyricism on here, the different themes for Illinois itself, and that's a thing too that is pretty impressive. We've obviously never visited Illinois.
No.
We're not from Illinois. I know he's got a lot of fans internationally. He's able to bring in these themes and yet make them relatable to everybody. Essentially, mixing in his faith, his personal ideals. It was also a unique perspective as well. So, and of course, love the arrangements, love the choir, love the trumpets going in, man. The hush vocals from Sufjan.
Yeah, you got it all here, man.
Yeah, so very solid offering right here. Thanks again, Osmond. Let us know, y'all, what you think of Illinois down in the comment section below. Dan, I know this was a lot. I appreciate all the research.
No, man, it was interesting, to learn all this stuff. It was great.
Yeah, and until next time, y'all, thanks for watching. Happy listening. We will see you.